The paragraphs you say, Mr. Snake, were all inserted?
They were, madame, and as I copied them myself in a feigned hand, there can be no suspicion whence they came.
Did you circulate the report of Lady Brittle's intrigue with Captain Brostor?
That is in as fine a train as your ladyship could wish. In the common course of things, I think it must reach Mrs. Clackett's ears within 24 hours. And then, you know, the business is as good as done.
Why, truly, Mrs. Clackett has a very pretty talent and a great deal of industry.
It is very true, and has been tolerably successful in her day. To my knowledge, she has been the cause of 6 matches being broken off and 3 sons being disinherited, of 4 forced elopements, as many close confinements, 9 separate maintenances, and 2 divorces. Nay, more than once I have traced her causing a tete-a-tete in the Town and Country magazine, when perhaps the parties have never even seen each other's faces in the course of their lives.
She certainly has talent, but her manners gross.
True, true. She generally designs well, has a free tongue, a bold invention, but her coloring is too dark and her outline often extravagant. She wants that delicacy of hint and mellowness of sneer which distinguish your ladyship's scandal.
Ah, you are a partial Snake.
Not in the least. Everybody allows that Lady Sneerwell can do more with a word or a look than many can with the most labored detail, even if they happen to have a little truth on their side to support it.
Very true, my dear Snake, and I am no hypocrite to deny the satisfaction I reap from the success of my efforts. Wounded myself in the early part of my life by the envenomed tongue of slander, I confess I have since known no pleasure equal to the reducing of others to the level of my own injured reputation.
Nothing could be more natural. But, my dear Lady Sneerwell, there is one affair which in you have lately employed me, wherein I confess I am at a loss to guess your motives.
I conceive you mean with respect to my dealings with Sir Peter Teazle and his family?
I do. Here are 2 young men to whom Sir Peter Teazle has acted as a kind of guardian since their father's death. The elder possessing the most amiable character and universally well spoken of. The other, the most dissipated and extravagant young fellow in the kingdom, without friends or character. The former, an avowed admirer of your ladyship, and apparently your favorite. The latter, attached to Maria, Sir Peter's ward, and confessedly beloved by her. Now, on the face of these circumstances, it is utterly unaccountable to me why you, the widow of a city knight with a good jointure, should not close with the passion of the man of such character and expectations as Mr. Service. And more so, why you should be so uncommonly earnest to destroy the mutual attachment subsisting between his brother Charles and Maria.
Then if wants to unravel this mystery, I must inform you that love has no share whatsoever in the intercourse between Mr. Surface and myself.
No.
His real attachment is to Maria, unfortunate, but finding his brother a favourite rival, he has been forced to mask his pretensions and profit by my assistance.
Yet still I am more puzzled why you should interest yourself in his efforts with Maria.
Heavens, how dull you are! Cannot you surmise the weakness which I hitherto through shame have concealed even from you? Must I confess that Charles, that libertine, that extravagant, that bankrupt and fortunate reputation, that he it is for whom I am most anxious and malicious, and to gain whom I would sacrifice everything?
Now indeed your conduct appears consistent, but how came you and Charles so confidential?
For our mutual benefit. I found him out a long time since. I know him to be artful, selfish, malicious, in short, a sentimental knave.
Yet Sir Peter vows he is not his equal in England. And above all, he praises him as a man of sentiment.
Yes, and with the assistance of his sentiment and hypocrisy, he has brought himself entirely into his interest with regards to Maria.
Mr. Service?
Show him up. He generally calls about this time. I don't wonder if he was giving him to me for a lover.
Lady Sneerwell, how do you do today? Mrs. Snakey, most obedient.
Snake has just been arraigning me on our mutual attachment, but I have informed him of our real views. You know how useful he has been to us, and I assure you the confidence is not ill-placed.
Madam, it is impossible for me to suspect a man of Mrs. Snake's sensibility and discernment.
Well, no compliments now. But tell me when you last saw your Mistress Maria, or what is more important to me, your brother?
I have not seen either since I left you, but I can inform you they never meet. Some of your stories have taken a good effect on Maria.
Oh, my dear Snake, the merit of this belongs to you. But do your brother's distresses increase?
Every hour, I am told he has had another execution in the house yesterday. In short, his dissipation and extravagance exceed anything I ever heard of.
Poor Charles.
Aye, madam, notwithstanding his vices, one can't help feeling for him. I'm sure I wish it was in my power to be of any essential service to him, for the man who does not share in the distresses of a brother, even though marriage is by his own misconduct, deserves...
Lord, you are going to be moral again and forget that you are among friends.
Egad, that's true. I'll save that sentiment till I see Sir Peter. However, it is certainly a charity to rescue Maria from such a libertine. who, if he is to be reclaimed, can be so only of a person of your ladyship's superior accomplishments and understanding.
I believe Lady Sneerwell hears company coming. I'll go and copy that letter I mentioned to you. Mr. Surface, you're most obedient.
Sir, very good. Lady Sneerwell, I'm very sorry you've put any further confidence in that fellow.
Why so?
I've lately detected him in frequent conflict with old Rowley, who was formerly my father's steward, and has, you know, never been a friend of mine.
Do you think he would betray us?
Nothing more likely. Take my word for it, Lady Sneerwell. That man hasn't virtue enough to be faithful even to his own... Ah, right.
Well, my dear, how do you do? What's the matter? Oh, there's that disagreeable lover of mine, Sir Benjamin Backlight, has just called at my guardians with his odious Aunt Croucher, so I've run hither to avoid them. Is that all?
If my brother Charles had been of the party man, perhaps you would have not been so much alarmed.
Nay, now you are severe, for I dare swear the truth of the matter is more I heard you were here. But my dear, what has Sir Benjamin done that you should avoid him so? Oh, he has done nothing, but just for what he has said. His conversation is a perpetual libel on all his acquaintance.
Aye, madam, and the worst of it is, there's no advantage in not knowing him. For he'll abuse a stranger just as soon as his best friend, and his aunt is as bad.
Nay, but we should make an allowance. Sir Benjamin is a wit and a poet. For my part, I own, madam, wit loses its respect with me when I see it in company with malice. What do you think, Mr. Service?
Certainly, madam. To smile at the jest which plants a thorn in another's breast is to become a principal in the mischief.
There's no chance of being witty without a little ill nature. The malice of a good thing is the blood that makes it stick. What's your opinion, Mr. Surface?
To be sure, madam, that conversation where the spirit of raillery is suppressed will ever appear tedious and insipid.
For my part, I'll not debate how far scandal may be allowable, but in a man, I'm sure, is always contemptible. We have pride, envy, rivalship, and 1,000 ways to depreciate each other. But a man must have the cowardice of a woman before he can introduce one.
Mrs. Candler is below, and if your ladyship's at leisure, we'll leave her carriage.
Right now. Now, Maria, however, here is a character more to your own taste. For although Mrs. Candler is a little talkative, everybody allows her to be the best natured and best sort of woman. Yes, with a very gross affection of good nature and benevolence. She does more mischief than direct malice of old Crabtree.
My faith, 'tis very true, Lady Sneerwell. Whenever I hear the current runnings against the characters of my friends, I never think them in such danger as when candour undertakes their defence.
Oh, here she is.
Lady Sneerwell, how are you this century? Mr. Service, what news do you hear? Though indeed it is no matter, for I think one hears nothing else but scandal.
Just so indeed, madam.
Ah, Maria, child, what? Is the whole affair off between you and Charles? His extravagance, I presume? The town talks of nothing else.
I'm very sorry, ma'am. The town has so little to do.
Very true, child, but there's no stopping people's tongues. I own, I was heard to hear about it, as I was indeed to learn from the same quarter, that your guardians, Sir Peter and Lady Tlistle, have not agreed so well as could be wished.
'Tis strangely impertinent for people to busy themselves so.
True, child. But people will talk, there's no preventing it. Why, it was but yesterday that I had heard that Miss Gadabout had eloped with Sir Filigree Flirt. Though, indeed, it is no matter, although I did hear it from very good sources.
Such reports are highly scandalous.
Oh, so they are. Shameful. But the world is so censorious, no character escapes. Why, who would have suspected your friend Miss Prim of an indiscretion? Yet, such is the ill nature of people that they say her uncle stopped her, just as she was stepping into the York diligence with her dancing master.
I'll answer for it. There are no grounds for that report.
No foundation in the world, that I swear. No more probably than the story that circulated last month of Mrs. Festino's affair with Colonel Casino, though to be sure, that matter was never rightly cleared up.
The license of invention some people take is monstrous indeed.
'Tis so, but in my opinion, those who report such things are equally culpable.
To be sure they are. Tale-bearers are just as bad as the tale-makers. 'Tis an old observation and a very true one. But like I said before, what's to be done? How will you prevent people from talking? Why, today, Mrs. Clackett assured me that Mr. and Mrs. Honeymoon had at last become mere man and wife like the rest of their acquaintances. She likewise hinted that a certain widow had gotten rid of her dropsy and recovered her shape in the most surprising manner. And at the same time was affirmed by Miss Tattle that Woods Bindle had found his lady at a house of no extraordinary fame, and that Sir Harry Bouquet and Tom Saunter were to measure swords on a similar provocation. But Lord, do you think I would report these things? No, no. As I said before, the tale-bearers are just as bad as the tale-makers.
Ah, Mrs. Candour, if everybody had your forbearance and good nature.
Well, I own it, Mr. Surface. I hate to hear bad things come out against one's acquaintances, but when ugly circumstances do come out, I always love to think the best. By the by, I hope it's not true that your brother is absolutely ruined.
I'm afraid his circumstances are very bad indeed, madam.
I had heard so, but you must tell him to keep up his spirits. Everybody is almost in the same way. Lord Spindle, Sir Thomas Splint, Captain Quincy, and Mr. Nickett, all up I hear within the week. So if Charles is to be undone, he'll find half his acquaintances ruined too. And that, you know, is a consolation.
Doubtless, ma'am, a very good one.
Mrs. Crabtree and Sir Benjamin Backer.
So, Mariah, you see your lover pursues you. Positively, you shan't escape.
Lady Snowell, I kiss your hand. Mrs. Candour, I don't believe you're acquainted with my nephew, Sir Benjamin Backbite. God, ma'am, he's a pretty wit and a pretty poet too. Isn't he, Lady Snowell?
Oh, he.
Hey, but it's true. I'll back a bit of a bastard charade against the best rhymers in the kingdom. Has your ladyship heard the epigram he wrote on Lady Frizz's feather catching fire? Do, Benjamin repeated. Or the charade he made last night, extempore, at Lady Dundizzie's conversazione. Come now. The first is the name of the fish. The second, the name of the naval officer.
Pretty happy.
I faith, ma'am, it would surprise you how ready he is at these things.
I wonder, Sir Benjamin, you never publish anything?
To say the truth, ma'am, it's very old, and as my little productions mostly sad peers and lampoons on particular people, I find it circulate more by giving copies in confidence to friends and party. However, I do have some love allergies, so it's an affinity to the smiles I mean to give to the public.
For heaven, ma'am, they'll immortalize you. You'll be handed down to posterity like Patriarchs Laura or Wallace Saccharissa.
True, madame, I think you will like them when you shall see them on a beautiful quarto page, where neat reflects a text, a murmur through merit writing. For God, they'll be the most elegant things of their kind.
But ladies, 'tis true. Have you heard the news?
What, ma'am? Do you mean that?
No, not that. Miss Nicely is to be married to her own footman.
Oh, impossible!
Ask Sir Benjamin.
It's very true, madame. Everything's fixed and the wedding library bespoke.
Yes, and they do say there were pressing reasons for it.
Well, it can't be, and I wonder anyone should believe a story of so prudent a lady as Miss Nicely.
Oh, Lou, ma'am, that's the very reason for us to leave at once. She's always been so cautious, so reserved, that everybody thought there was some reason for her bottom.
Why, to be sure, a tale of scandal is as a fever is to those gentlemen with the strongest sorts of constitutions. Though, to be sure, there is always a puny, sickly reputation that is always ailing, yet will outlive the robust character of 100 prunes.
True, madame, they are rather tenured, reputation as well as constitution, but being conscious of their weak part, avoid the least breath there, and supply the want of stamina by caring and respect.
Well, this may all well be a mistake. You know, Sir Benjamin, very trifling circumstances often give rise to the most injurious of tales.
Ah, that they do, ma'am, I'll be sworn. But have you heard how Miss Piper came to lose her lover and her character last summer at Tunbridge? Sir Benjamin, you remember.
Oh, to say the most whimsical circumstance.
You pray tell us.
Why, it happened one evening at Mrs. Ponto's assembly. The conversation happened to turn on the difficulty of breeding Nova Scotia sheep in this land. Well, a young lady in company, I have known instances of it. For a first cousin of mine, Miss Lydia Piper, had Nova Scotia sheep that bore her twins. What, cries the old dotty? You know he's as deaf as a post. Has Miss Lydia Piper had twins? This mistake, as you can imagine, threw the whole company in perfect laughter. And it was the next day reported, and within a few days believed by the whole town, that Miss Lydia Piper had actually been brought to bed of a fine boy and girl. And by the end of the week, there were some who could even name the father, and the farmhouse where the babies were put out to nurse.
Strange indeed.
It is, ma'am, indeed. Oh, Mr. Surface, is it true that your uncle, Sir Oliver, is coming home?
Not that I know of indeed, ma'am.
He's been in the West Indies a great deal. You scarcely remember him, I believe. Sad conflicts. For when he returns to hear how your brother has gone on.
Charles has been an imprudent man, to be sure, but I hope no busy people have already prejudiced him against Sir Oliver. He may reform.
To be certain, and for my part, I never believed him to be so utterly void of principle as people say. And though he's lost all his friends, I'm told nobody's better spoken of by the Jews.
Yes. If the old jury were one, I believe Charles would be an ombudsman. There's no one there more looked up to. For I hear he pays many annuities to Irish Taunton, and that whenever he is sick, they have prayers said for the recovery of his health in the synagogue.
Yet no man lives in greater splendor, they tell me, when he entertains his friends. He can sit down to dinner with his dozen of certain securities, a score of tradesmen waiting in the antechamber, and an officer behind every guest chair.
This may be entertainment to you people, but you pay very little regard for the feelings of a brother.
Their malice is intolerable. Lady Snirrel, I must bid you a good morning. I'm not feeling very well. Well, she changed colour very much.
Do Mrs. Cantor follow her? She may want assistance.
That I will, ma'am, with all my soul. Poor dear girl, who knows what her situation may be?
She's only that she cannot bear to hear Charles reflected on, notwithstanding their difference.
The young lady's cancer is obvious.
But Beckman, you mustn't give up pursuit for that. Follow her and put her into good spirits. Read us some of your verse. Come, assist me.
Mr. Surface, I do not mean to hurt you, but depend upon it, your brother is utterly undone.
Undone as ever man was. Can't raise a guinea.
Everything sold and told, that was movable.
I've seen one at the house. Nothing left but some empty bottles that were overlooked. And a family portrait that I believe was framed at the waistcoat.
And I'm also very sorry to hear some bad stories against him.
Oh, he's done many means, that's certain.
But, however, I see your brother.
We'll tell you all another opportunity.
It's very hard for them to lean atop a day not quite yet run down.
And I believe the abuse was no more acceptable to your ladyship than it was to Maria.
I doubt your reflections are further engaged than we had observed. But the family are to be here tonight, so you may as well dine where you are, and you shall have an opportunity of observing further. In the meantime, I shall plot mischief, and you shall study sentiment.
When an old bachelor marries a young wife, what is he to expect? 'Tis now 6 months since Lady Teazle made me the happiest of men, and I have been the miserablest dog ever since that ever-committed wedlock. We differed a little going to church, and came to a quarrel before the bells were done ringing. I was more than once nearly choked with gall during the honeymoon, and had lost all comfort in life before my friends had done wishing me joy. Yet I chose with caution a girl bred wholly in the country, who never knew luxury beyond one silk gown, nor dissipation above the annual gala of a race ball. Yet now she plays a part in all the extravagant fopperies of the fashion, with as ready a grace as if she had never seen a bush or a grass planted across in a square. I am sneered at by my old acquaintance, paragraphed in the newspapers. She dissipates my fortune and contradicts all my humours. Yet the worst of it is I doubt I love her, or I should never pretend to bear all this. However, I'll never be weak enough to own it.
Sir Peter, your servant, how is it, sir?
Very bad, Master Rowley, very bad. I meet with nothing but crosses and vexations.
What can have happened to have troubled you since yesterday?
A quick question to a married man.
I am sure your lady, Sir Peter, can't be the cause of her uneasiness.
Why, has anyone told you she was dead?
Come, Sir Peter, you love her, notwithstanding her tempers do not exactly agree.
But the fault is entirely hers, Master Rowley. I am myself the sweetest tempered man alive and hate a teasing temper, and so I tell her 100 times a day.
Indeed.
Aye, what is very extraordinary, in all disputes she is always in the wrong. But Lady Sneerwell, in the set she meets at her house, encourage the perverseness of her disposition. Then, to complete my vexations, Maria, my ward, whom I ought to have the power of a father over, is determined to turn rebel too, and absolutely refuses the man whom I have long resolved on for her husband, meaning, I suppose, to bestow herself on his profligate brother.
You know, Sir Peter, I've always taken the liberty to differ with you on the subject of these two young gentlemen, for I only wish you may not be deceived in your opinion of the elder. Charles, my life aunt, he will retrieve his heirs yet. The worthy father, once my honoured master, was at his years nearly as well as Spock, and yet when he died, he did not leave more benevolent heir to lament his loss.
You are wrong, Master Rowley. On their father's death, you know I acted as a kind of guardian to them both, till their uncle Sir Oliver's Eastern liberality gave them an early independence. Of course no man could have more opportunity of judging their hearts, and I was never mistaken in my life. Joseph is indeed a model for the young men of the age. He's a man of sentiment, and acts up to the sentiments he professes. But for the other, take my word for it, if he had any grains of virtue left by descent, he has dissipated them along with the rest of his inheritance.
I'm sorry to find you so violent against the young man, because this may be the most critical period of his fortune. But I come hither with news that will surprise you.
What? Let me hear.
Sir Oliver's arrived, and at this moment in town.
How? You astonish me. I thought you did not expect him this month.
I did not, but his passage has been remarkably quick.
Egad, I shall rejoice to see my old friend. 'Tis 16 years since we met. We have had many a day together. But pray, does he still enjoin us not to inform his nephews of his arrival?
Most strictly. It means before it is made known to make a trial of their dispositions.
Well, there needs no one to discover their merits. However, he shall have his way. But pray, does he know I am married?
Yes, and will soon wish you joy.
What, as we drink health to a friend in a consumption? Ah, Oliver will laugh at me. We used to rail at matrimony together, but he has been steady to his text. But, Master Raleigh, don't drop the word that Lady Teazle and I ever disagree.
By no means.
For I should never be able to stand those jokes. So I'd have him think, Lord forgive me, that we are a very happy couple.
I understand, but then you must be very careful not to differ while he's in the house.
Egad, and that's impossible. Ah, Master Rowley, when an old bachelor marries a young wife, he deserves... No. The crown carries the punishment along with it.